This man-child is an absolute fucking red flag. If you're a woman who has the audacity to laugh in the presence of another man, he doesn't want a woman like that. Well, do you know what, Ken? I mean, fuck yourself. Honesty Box episode 2. For years I've been saying I wish they had a Love Island with older, kind of more normal people. And although these people aren't really that much older, that is kind of what I was asking for. But it turns out some of them still act like children. That being said, I would still like to see a Love Island with really older people. However, back to the matter at hand. Tobias was chatting with Noelle and he was honest and he says, I think I'm more into Vicky, like we're really getting on or whatever. And she says, oh, I feel like we're more like colleagues. And you know what? At least he spoke to her about it. He didn't do it in a shady way. He wasn't being a dick or anything. He was just like, I think you're lovely, but I think I like Vicky more. Fair enough. Rose was talking about her match Tommy and she was saying she'd been put off him a wee bit because he says that a woman loses her value after she'd went with 25 people. Keep him in mind that yesterday he says that he'd lost count of how many people he'd went with, but he just knew it wasn't 100. Fucking dump that dick. Lucinda comes in and they were playing a game and the boys had to say if they were comfortable or uncomfortable with something and the women had to say try or not willing to try and they had to go and stand behind signs. So I can't remember what the first one was, but it came out that Kane has got a foot fetish. And he was like, oh, I really like Jessie May's feet, like put them in my mouth, blah, blah, blah. I hate feet. Foot fetishes, I don't understand. I mean, if somebody wanted to put my foot in their mouth, right, okay, don't bring yours near me, or you'll lose it. They were talking about massages, and Chantel says, I don't like massages, I don't like being touched, I don't like giving massages, like, it's too intimate. Personally, I am absolutely fucking shite at giving massages. I don't really like giving them. I don't mind being touched. I mean, I'd try and give you a massage, but I'd be wasting your time, and if anything, I'd probably end up hurting you. So her and her partner, Maldini, were talking about it, and he was saying, oh, I wasn't happy that you were saying you don't really like to be touched or whatever, but they were just having a wee chat. And then he says that he was a bit scared to be pulled into the honesty box because there's some things that might come out that'll get him in trouble. So she's like what? I mean, he's on a show called Honesty Box. The basic outlines of the show are given to them. Maybe he's on the wrong show if that's how he feels. In the comfortable or uncomfortable game, they were asked about sex toys, and Vicky's partner, Richie, was like, oh, I've got a case of sex toys or whatever, and she was like, oh, I'm pretty private, like I don't really like to talk about stuff like that. And I kind of thought, all these people are like at least in their 30s, I think. It's very weird for them to not be open to something like that. I mean, they did all say like comfortable or willing to try, but the way she was like, oh, I'm quite a private person. I'm a private person, but when you're going on a dating show that's quite possibly similar to Love Island, tell your friends and family or tell your family not to watch. If that's how you're feeling, it's not as if they were asking them to use them fucking live on the screen. I mean, I get that some people are just more private, but you're on a dating show on national TV, so did that not cross their mind before? Tobias was called into the honesty box first and he was asked if he had sex with somebody 20 years older than him, and he said yes, and he was asked if he'd had sex with 3 people within 24 hours and he said yes. So I'm looking at him thinking, has he really got that many options? But I thought he must have had a foursome or something. Then the box asked him if he had made a deal with another Trutopian to swap partners. That's what they're calling them, Trutopians. And he said yes. So Noelle and Vicky were fucking raging because he's paired up with Noelle and he likes Vicky. But the guy Richie who Vicky's paired up with, he was also saying, oh, we could swap. Like, and I know that it was banter, but it's human beings that we're dealing with. They're talking about them as if they're fucking Pokemon cards. So Vicky was like, do you know what? I'm off Rich now. And Noelle was saying, well, like, that's a bit disrespectful. And the two of them were fucking annoyed. So Vicky was talking to Richie and she was like, basically, I'm not interested. You don't get to decide how you get to swap. The fact was, they didn't even come and say to the women, listen, I really like this person. Like, I think that maybe we should swap or whatever. I mean, at least Tobias spoke to Noelle and says that he preferred Vicky. But Richie didn't even say that to her. He's an absolute dick. And he's saying, oh, she's speaking to him like a child. Maybe she's speaking to him like a fucking child because he's acting like a fucking child. Honest to God, man. So Noelle was saying, oh, what do they think they're in a fish market? That's exactly what they think. Honest to fuck, man. I know that they were making a joke out of it, but it's just fucking pathetic. Next, Rose was taken to the honesty box and she was asked if she feels like she's sexually compatible with her partner Tommy, and she said yes. And she was asked if she thought Maldini was sexy. Now, they're obviously seeing things that they've not been showing us, because I wasn't seeing that at all. But she says yes, and then Maldini put his glasses on and he's like, oh, I thought she thought that. It was actually such a cringe thing to witness. Next thing you know, Maldini's been took into the box, and he had already says that he was worried about going in here because some things might get him in trouble. He was asked if he thought he was sexually compatible with his partner Chantel, and he said yes. And he was also asked if in 24 hours if he'd had sex with 3 people, and he said yes, and Chantel was fucking raging. So when he came out the honesty box, she was saying, look, that's really put me off. And he was saying, oh, look, I was young, we make mistakes. Let me be honest with you, right? People do things like that when they're younger. Does it mean it's a mistake? No, you're young, you're having fun. It's not really that much of a big deal. I mean, if it gets to the point where you do things like that all the time and you have slept with 70, 80, 90 women or men, and it's just a constant thing, you're constantly having threesomes and that, it's like, right, do you know what, you're the absolute bloke, you'd obviously fucking stick it in anything, get away from me. But I don't really think that him having a threesome or foursome or whatever when he was younger is that much of a big deal. However, she's obviously a Christian, and she's like, maybe that's the reason why she's got such a problem with it, or maybe she just does get a problem with it in general. So Chantel's like, you're here for a vibe and I'm not here for a vibe, I'm here for a relationship, so the two of them fall out. Noelle was only asked if she wanted to climb Richie like a tree, which she'd already says to one of the other girls, and she was like, yes. Fair enough, at least she was honest, and it's not as if she hadn't said it before. Jessie May was called into the box and she was asked if she found Kane's foot fetish a turn on, and she said yes. And do you think Kane's head will turn in here? And she said no. So they were seeming to go on fine. Lucinda came back in and she was saying, right, the boys are going to get a chance to recouple up, go to the note box or whatever, the love box or whatever it was, and you can write a note to somebody else if you want to pair up with them. They put the notes in the box and then they read out who the note is for, and when the woman goes up, she sees who it's from, and then she says if she's going to accept it or not. If she doesn't accept it, then she doesn't read out who the note's from. It was fairly obvious that Tobias was going to write a note to Vicky and Richie was going to write a note to Noelle, so they're swapped now, and the other partners don't really seem to give a fuck. They'd already gave up on them by then. So Rose also received a letter, and at this point we know it's from Maldini because the two of them have been flirting. And she got up there and she was just like, oh, I really appreciate the compliment, but I'm happy in my couple and I'm going to have to reject it, right? So she didn't tell Andy the note was for him, but I think it was pretty obvious. So Jessie May, who's totally loved up with Kane, was away over talking to Tobias, and she was saying, oh, that was a really lovely note you wrote, that was really nice, and they were just talking away, and she was laughing. Now, fucking God forbid, I know what you're thinking. She's in a couple and she's talking to another man and she's laughing. What a fucking harlot. Well, Kane thought the same, and he was like, ugh, I'm disgusted. I can't believe my partner, who I've known for 2 days, is laughing with another man. Disgusting. So she goes back over to speak to him and he's like, oh, I'm not happy. Making this massive fucking deal out of her laughing with a guy, and all she was saying was, I really liked your note, that was nice. This is what a man-child looks like. God forbid a woman exist. God forbid a woman laugh. God forbid a woman go and talk to another man about the girl that he's paired up with and say, oh, that was a nice note. People like this disgust me. I thought they were all in their 30s, but I just checked his age and he's 25 and he's still acting like a fucking 15-year-old. What an embarrassment. Anyway, let me know what you thought of the episode. Let me know what you think of this fucking man-child, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye!